Welcome to another exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you're a veteran and you're in the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, and worldwide online at 1300WMEL.com, sponsored by AVET Project. Folks, y'all know American Warrior Radio is all about supporting our troops and their families, both past and present. So please get comfortable, grab a nice beverage, and get a pen and paper, because we're always efforting to bring you important information that you can use and share with others. And we've got a edition of the Bosun's Call coming up here in just a moment, but Glenn, we had a couple things we wanted to throw out there for everybody, just to keep a little housekeeping. We want to make sure everybody gets involved. I'll start off. Space Coast Community Law School. Folks, these are free legal seminars. It's the end of the term, and it's been a very successful term for Britta and her gang at Space Coast Community Law School. Y'all know her, Britta Hawkins. She's an attorney up in Titusville, does some phenomenal work on behalf of vets and others regarding Social Security matters and so much more. You can get in touch with her direct at 321-269-6833. But I want you to register for the very last class in this spring semester of the Space Coast Community Law School. That's right.
It's free.
Oh yes, that's the important thing. It's free, costs you nothing. You just drive there and have a great time and learn a lot. And the issue is, Glenn?
The First Amendment. And with all the things going on in the news lately, that ought to pack the house. I tell you what, it's going to be by Judge David Silvernail, and he is a well-respected judge in Brevard County, well throughout the state judiciary system, and it promises to be an exciting and very informative presentation. It'll be at the courthouse in Viera in the jury assembly room, and it starts at 6 o'clock and runs no more than 2 hours. So plan your time from 6 to 8.
You get a little break at about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and please don't forget that you got to go through security just like you do at an airport when you go there. So don't bring your hunting knives and your concealed weapons and all that kind of stuff, because you're not going to get in if you do that, and they may get cranky with you.
Yeah, you want to come there and enjoy. You don't want to have any problems, okay? So get online, SCCLS, Sierra Charlie Lima Sierra.com. SCCLS, that stands for Space Coast Community Law School. Register if you haven't already done so. Britta and her staff give you a notebook, binder, and rough drafts and a pen, so you're there ready to absorb the information that's coming at you. And it's always great. And you know, Britta just told me earlier in the week that this term has been phenomenal. It hasn't packed the house every time, but she's really impressed with the numbers. So they're doing something right, getting this type of information out to you guys for free.
Yeah, and whenever do you get free legal advice? If you walk in the lawyer's office, you're going to normally have to pay some kind of a retainer just to speak to the lawyer. But this is well worth your time. And let me get your pencils ready again. Let me give you the phone number you can also call to pre-register, and that's 321-269-6833. 269-6833.
And since we're talking about law, you probably caught the episode with David Gordon from High Stack Gordon and Kirby regarding the specific munitions used. And if you were injured, go to the Facebook page. If you suffered an injury from 2005 to 2011 in Iraq due to a couple very specific type of munitions, there's money. There's money waiting for you. And David and his crew want to help you get it. So check it out at D. Gordon Law. Well, that's his email address. I don't know. Go to High Stack Gordon and Kirby. Check out their Facebook page and register, and he will personally, or one of his associates, get back to you so that you can sign on with this class action suit to get you some well-deserved, some earned money to compensate you for your injuries from these terrorists. and all of
Yeah,
their...
well, one more piece of the background is terrorists, and these weapons that we're talking about that injured our troops over there and killed, as the case may be, were furnished by Iran.
Exactly. And we're going to have some more news after we finish our bosun's call, because the local American Legion Post 200 always has some wonderful meals and activities going on. We'll brief you on that. But let's pause for a couple seconds here and listen to the bosun's whistle, and then we'll be joined by your commander of the Port Canaveral Coast Guard Station, B. Perry. Commander, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, give us an update. I know this last week your station hosted a military affairs council meeting. How'd that go over?
It went great, and I tell you, we couldn't have done it without AVET Project. You guys are outstanding. Coming out there, you put up a stage, had some entertainment, and provided the food, and we did some great things with showing people just kind of how we operate out there on the Cape.
Yeah, and that's the neat thing about being a member of the MAC. Whether you're a community leader or business owner or just a community member, and you're a member of the chamber, Cocoa Beach Regional Chamber, as well as the MAC, you get to experience things that the average person is not ever going to get to see. What did they get to see out there?
Oh, they got to go aboard the Coast Guard Cutter Confidence, get a grand tour of that old ship, and see just how those guys keep that thing running. And they also got a little look at Coast Guard Station Port Canaveral, our ready boats, and intermingled with some of the crew. And I think they got introduced to our station dog Levi. He was running around out there, so they got it was just a great evening, you know. And like I said before, the sponsors that provided all the food, you know, with the AVET Project, and I think Space Coast Intel Solutions, and just everybody, you know, they're always giving us encouragement for what we do and thanking us. And I tell you what, our guys, their eyes lit up that night, so it was great to have y'all out there.
Yeah, well, it was a real fun evening. It's always fun. We've done that a couple times now, besides the Coast Guard Day and what have you. And honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Brian Jaskowitz and his crew at Space Coast Intelligence Solutions, they were a big part of it. Your crew was such a phenomenal part. The MAC contributed to it. It's a neat event. And for those folks out here in Radioland that didn't get to come out there, what are some of the highlights? You mentioned your boats. Other than the Coast Guard cutter, which Captain Passarelli talked about a little bit, what other equipment you got out there?
Well, we have our 45-foot response boat, which is state-of-the-art. It's brand new. It's a water jet drive. What most people don't realize, it doesn't even have a ship's wheel on it. It's got joysticks. You drive it with joysticks. You can actually hover in one position.
Wow.
You can actually plug that thing in and drive it from a little laptop anywhere on the boat.
Get out of here.
No, it's crazy. You know, it goes close to 50 knots.
What's that in miles?
That in miles an hour, it's about a mile and a half difference, you know, between miles per hour and knot. So it gets going on the water.
It scoots.
Compared to that older ship we were talking about, this max speed's about 18.
And is that response boat? Is that the one that self-rights itself in a big wave?
Right. Well, it's not the heavy weather type of surf boat that we used to have at Port Canaveral that would rewrite itself and keep going. But this does have rewriting capability. But I try to chain my guys to keep the bottom down.
Which is where it belongs, exactly. But you mentioned the joysticks, so that must factor in well with some of your younger troops. Because, Commander, let's face it, the Coast Guard, which never gets enough airplay anywhere,
Right.
you've got some extraordinarily talented young men and women, and they must relate to that joystick controller pretty well, since they've kind of grown up in the video age, right?
Well, it's funny, but my last unit before I got here, we did the research and development on this boat, and we're out there, and the captain we had at the time was going on 42 years in the Coast Guard. Old boat driver, and went all the way up through the ranks. Well, this guy's on the boat trying to drive it, and I have this new guy that's been, you know, maybe 2 years. He took the helm over from the captain.
That's funny.
So yeah, so those guys can pick up on it a lot better, a lot quicker, just because of the age they're growing up in.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've always been impressed with the Coast Guard as one of the branches of service with how much the younger men and women in the Coast Guard, the lower ranking, if you will, men and women in the Coast Guard, how much more responsibility they're given than I'm used to in my Air Force career, for instance.
Right. I have, for instance, I have an E3 right now that is getting through the certification process, and he's going to be one of the rescue boat operators. He's going to be a Coast Guard coxswain, and he isn't even a petty officer.
Wow, phenomenal.
So this, it is possible. We do give a lot of responsibility to junior members. You know, they're already out there enforcing laws and treaties in the United States, carrying a gun like a police officer, and, you know, they're barely 19, 20 years old.
That's impressive. And our producer wanted me to ask you, because, I mean, honestly, we so enjoy having you on American Warrior Radio, giving some info out. Are you familiar with what the mission is of the Coast Guard over in the theaters of operation in the Middle East right now? Is
right.
it...
There's PAP-4 SWA over there, which is...
Say that again?
It's called PAP-4 SWA. It's kind of a mix between Patrol Forces Southwest Asia, and they're doing a lot of... We've had them back there before even the first strike in Iraq, and they're performing security missions out in the Gulf there in guarding the oil platforms out there. And then we've had Coast Guardsmen die over there performing that mission. We also have this is interesting. My XO Lane Marshburn, I know he's been on the show before.
You bet.
His tour of duty here is up in June, and he's headed over to Saudi Arabia. They're putting together forming their own Coast Guard, and he's going to be part of the team to help set up their Coast Guard over there. So
Wow, what an honor for him.
right, it's people don't realize that 35,000 that we have active duty strong here is strung out all over the world.
Well, yeah, even I didn't know that until we began knowing you through the radio show here, and I think that's phenomenal for the folks to know out there. I'm switching topic just a little bit. Since there's a new Carnival ship and there seems like a new ship coming all the time to the port, do you guys have any specific responsibilities regarding these cruise ships, inspection or anything like that?
Yes, sir. We provide the port security for the cruise ships, and you may see us sometimes out there. Our little orange boats with the guns mounted, just providing security in and out of those ships. We also at the station have a marine safety detachment, and if you ever down at the port, maybe over at Fish Lips or Grills or one of those, and you see these their lifeboats out in the water running around, that's because the Coast Guard's out there putting them through their emergency drills. We inspect those boats as they pull in right there at the port. So we also provide that safety and security in the port, but also on board the ship.
And you do this with how many personnel, Commander?
I have barely 50 active duty, and I think the Marine Safety Detachment's around 12.
Wow, you had the same problem I had when I was a manager of the County Veteran Service Office. I needed more people.
Too much work, not enough people.
Exactly, and I think, I always like to tell people we're pretty much the most efficient and the best bang for your buck that you're getting out of the government.
Well, I think so.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned some of your assets, your inventory there. What are the types of boats that you use to clear the zone during rocket launches? And do we have any rocket launches coming up? Because I know yesterday on Friday, I'm not sure if it took off or not because of the bad weather.
Right.
But
yeah, we provide all the security for rocket launches, as well as any naval operations that are going on that the Navy has. And we use pretty much all of our boats. We have the two Defender-class boats. Those are the smaller orange ones that you see usually up on the little floating dock we have. And then, of course, the 45-footer. And then depending on what the mission is and what kind of intelligence, we may even throw out that 87-foot patrol boat that you see there at the pier also.
excellent. Okay, so beyond that, give us some more ins and outs. I'm glad to hear that Lane, that like Glenn said, that's a heck of a kudos to him for doing that. So.
Yeah, and honestly, since I've been there at the station, we've had 3 different crew members that I've had that have actually got picked to go over and serve in the downrange, as they call it over there. And you know, it's as a volunteer service, these guys really man up, and it's a huge job because there's no time off. You know, over there, you don't get those evenings off with the family. It's usually a year tour, and it's out at sea, back in, get replenished with fuel and food, and go right back out. You know, so pretty busy job, and it's not on some big destroyer. You know, we've only got like 110-foot patrol boats over there, so the quarters get kind of confined after a while. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I remember them old days of 7 days a week, as many hours a day as it took.
That's right. Some interesting cases we've had recently. We've had a rash of search and rescue cases lately. We had a boat fire up in Titusville the other night. Kept us up all night. Ended up saving the individual on board.
Outstanding.
Probably something you haven't heard on the
Nope.
on the news.
Never hear about it. How far offshore was he?
They were right up in the intercoastal waterway just off of Titusville.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he was transiting up, and it was still under an investigation to see what caused the fire, but it burnt. It was totally engulfed and burnt down.
Holy cow.
Had about 200 gallons of fuel on it. So anyway, we saved the guy, and all is well. And up near Titusville, a couple of duck hunters got blown away from their blind on their boat, and then a couple of kids were out having a good time, and the winds blew them across the river. So that was 4. Within about a 2-day period, I think that was 2 or 3 days, we saved those 4. And then we had a guy last weekend on a yacht transiting in and cut a couple of fingers off, so we had to go out and take care of that guy.
Holy cow. Commander, how is your station informed that this need is there? How do you get notified that there's an emergency, especially like the fire or the getting knocked into the water or chopped off fingers?
The ones on the fire actually came from 911, so it went through dispatch, and then they contacted us. Most of the calls at sea just come over the radio, over Channel 16 on the VHF radio that most boaters have, and they should have. Nowadays, with the technology, even if we don't get a good signal or they don't know their position, we can actually triangulate their position with some of our new technology and find them, even if they don't know where they're at. So,
That would be me. That would be me. Help! Help!
That's great. It also sounds like a couple of those need reminding that you might want to know what the weather's going to be before you get out on boating, even on the rivers around here.
That's right. And what we run into a lot is down by 520 over there by Lee Winter Park. If you look, there's all those sailboats out there. And sometimes people don't check on the sailboats and reset their anchors after these storms. And when we get some heavy winds that blow in, they break anchor, and we spend a lot of time out there. There's no, usually no one on the boat, so it's not like a loss of life issue. But we want to save their property too. But they could make our job a little easier by checking up on their boats once in a while and re-anchoring it, or
Yeah,
Okay.
well, so in the Coast Guard, you not only get to do boats that have engines on them, you get to do sailboats.
Yeah, the sailboats, a lot of times those are really tough to. It takes a lot to tow those things sometimes because their hull speed's not that fast, so you can end up spending a lot of time towing a sailboat.
Hey, what recommendation would you have for a boater that is going to plan a trip off coast, offshore? Is there a specific weather site that you would recommend over another?
You can go to any NOAA. You can go to NOAA.gov. You get on there, and you can actually pull up a lot of the buoys and see what the sea conditions are before, and then any kind of weather forecast through them on NOAA where you're going. You can look it up, and it'll tell you what the offshore conditions are and projected going to be. Also, an important thing to do if you are going to make one of those trips, let's say you're going to go to the Bahamas, you want to put in with a friend, you can file one of your trip reports. Basically, you're just going to put down where you're going, when where you're leaving out of, where you're going to, how long you're going to be gone, and if you're not back at a certain time, they can go ahead and get with us, and we could start the search.
Kind of
Yeah.
a flight path for being out on the ocean.
Exactly. It's basically a sail plan. You're going to file a sail plan with one of your
Sail
friends. That way
plan.
You have all your information, description of the boat, you know, how many people are going, and just give some time. Hey, if we're not here by this time, we need you to, you know, let the Coast Guard know, and they can call, you know, they can call that in.
Excellent advice. When I, many moons ago, had a sailboat, I lived by that because you never, sailboats, you don't, as you mentioned, you don't have as much maneuverability,
Right.
Especially if the winds become a real issue. So.
Exactly. So filing that float plan is with a friend to hold on to, and you know, hey, it's easy just to throw that away if everything goes good, but it's nice to have it. Gives us, it narrows our search down, kind of like you know, everybody's been watching that plane crash thing and how big an area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if we can narrow that down to a smaller area, our chances of success are greater.
That's wonderful, and you know, great advice, folks out there, for our listeners, especially the ones that are boaters or might be going out on a boat with a friend.
Exactly.
Ask them, did you file a sale plan? And give them again how they can contact you, Commander.
I tell you, the best way to get any of that information, and I would suggest to anybody, is to take a boating class with our Coast Guard Auxiliary, is to go to cgaux.org. It's a great site. It gives you all this information. I think it even has those forms on there that you could fill out. You just print it out and fill it out.
Excellent.
But on that website, you can punch in your zip code, and it'll tell you where the closest Coast Guard flotilla is, and you could take a boating safety course.
Wonderful, and I know there must be another website for the Coast Guard in whole.
Right, just uscg.mil. You go on there, and you can see some stories about the Coast Guard, and they have a thing on there called the Coast Guard Compass, and if you look at that, you can see stories all over the country and the world of rescues and just some stories about some of the individuals that serve.
Yeah, and you can keep coming back here, folks, because we have Commander Perry on here live giving
as
you
often
the
as he
information
can make-
about rescues.
That's right.
And I'm looking forward to next month. Next month is a busy month. We've got Drowning Prevention Month starting, and Boating Safety Week will be next month, so we'll get some more information to you.
Oh,
Wonderful.
for sure. And I just want to get a shout out to one of your sailors, Caffarella. I'm not sure what his rating is. Mike is a BM1. What I don't.
Yes, sir, BM1.
What does that stand for?
He's a
For
Bosun A First Class.
Bosun A First Class, because he was instrumental in making that MAC meeting happen out at your station, and we wanted to get a special thanks to him. And as always, Commander, we thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today, because I know you're busy. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Folks,
Happy Easter to you all.
thank you very much, sir. Back at you.
You too, and thank you so much for your continuing service and the continuing service of your men and women in the Coast Guard out there.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend.
You too, brother.
All right, man.
Folks, that's uscg.mil. Go to the website. And Glenn, what was the one that had all the other cool information?
cgaux.org.
And they-
cgaux.org, and that's where you can find out how to get into these boating safety classes and all that.
And file your sail or float plan, as the commander said.
And get your annual free inspection, by the way.
There you go. That's pretty important stuff. So it'll be up on AVET Project's website. And I want to remind you, you go to avetproject.org, or, well, actually just go there, avetproject.org. Lower left-hand corner, you'll see all the social media, and we have a robust presence there. Even American Warrior Radio, which I'll get to in a minute, but click on the Facebook icon. Even if you're not a Facebook member, it'll shoot you right over there. You get lots of cool information and goings-on, happenings, current events. Listen, if you go to 1300WMEL.com and you click on the schedule and you go down to Saturday and you pull up American Warrior Radio, you're going to see John O'Hara, our chief engineer, has laid it out nicely for you. You can easily click on AVET Project's website or American Warrior Radio's Facebook page, and there's even a blurb there about what this program seeks to do. So we encourage you all to visit 1300 WMEL as well as avetproject.org, and obviously we encourage them to stay put, because we're going to be right back on American Warrior Radio after these brief messages. So really, don't go anywhere. Where else are you going to go? Come right back to
Come
American
right back
Warrior Radio.
with us, yes.